Hey everybody. Um, we hear a lot in the media about how the millennial generation, my generation, are entitled, spoiled, how we expect everything just to be handed to us, how we are the participation trophy generation, how we are the generation that is narcissistic and we only care about our social media posts and we only care about ourselves and we essentially expect society to cater to us. Yada, yada, yada. We've all heard the boomer propaganda. I'm starting to really think that because the boomers have such a tremendous influence in the capitalist media machine, that the millennials are the most shitted on generation of humans, shitted on more perhaps than any other generation uh, uh, than their predecessors. I mean, of course, the tradition of the older generation um, hating the younger one and crapping all over them is not new. I remember in my study of in college in philosophy in my intro philosophy class we talked about how uh, even in the days of ancient Greece, philosophers lamented of the decline in moral values. So all that being said, this article which I'm looking at now from the Guardian is simply talking about how there are a lot of young people, millennials, whose living standards are not as good as their parents at their age were at their age, and they are starting to blame capitalism and they're starting to become class conscious. And I think the capitalistic baby boomers are panicking at this because, of course, they don't, even though they uh, aren't going to live forever, they still want the world to stay the exact way it is uh, when they are at the zenith of their power. They can't possibly imagine a different world, um, and certainly a different one won't be as good as the one that they currently have. The brilliant uh, neoliberal uh, uh, end of history world that the baby boomer generation created in the post-war years of after World War II has slowly shown its cracks and has begun to crumble apart at the seams. And part of the uh, part of the evidence for this is simply the fact that that millennials are much worse off than their parents. This graph it says millennials spend almost a quarter of their net income on housing. Cohorts of the silent generation in their 20s spend under 10%. Could you imagine spending under 10% of your paycheck on to pay your rent? That would give, I mean, just thinking about that, that gives you 90% to spend on like food and any other expenses. That's incredible. Most millennial workers I know in this day and age, they would kill to be able to have a housing uh, cost of just 10% of their income. Um, let's see. Going down, it says uh, only a third of millennials own their own home, compared with almost two-thirds of baby boomers at the same age. It will take a millennial on average 19 years to save for a deposit, compared with just 3 years in the 1980s. That's incredible. Um, and I think this is by by design, because I think unfortunately, the baby boomer capitalist, this isn't to disparage all baby boomers. Of course, we're talking here in whenever you're talking about like generational analysis, you're talking, of course, in vast general um, circumstances. Um, I've seen about like 20 different definitions as to what constitutes a millennial. Um, I just consider myself one because I was born within plus or minus 10 years of the turn of the millennium. I mean, that's how I count it, but other places have their own uh, age or their own determination. Mine's just a very simple one. I'm not a population analyst after all. Um, but the fact that it'll take 19 years to save your deposit compared with just 3 in the 1980s, that's absolutely horrible. Um, Shame on the baby boomers for building a society in which it takes their children, you know, 19 years to buy a house, or not even to buy a house, but just for a deposit on a house. Uh, I guess this is to keep the millennial generation living in like apartments and renting to landlords. So I mean, again, this is sort of a conception of capitalism. It's it's a way to turn an entire generation of people in uh, not into property owners in the terms of like private property like homeowners, but instead just turn them into renters that can be subjected to like very harsh uh, eviction laws and um, be at the whim of their landlords. So it's a really it's a quite pessimistic world. um, It says in the 1960s, those born before the Second World War spent 8% of their income on housing. That's risen to almost a quarter of net income for millennials. It says right to buy has reduced social housing stock. 55,000 homes sold in 10 years, and house building is half the annual need required. At the same time, private landlords lack proper regulation, so families can be evicted with 2 months' notice. Rents can be astronomical. This was written, uh, I think for Britain. I think it was written for in the context of Great Britain. I could be wrong. Well, it says here, it mentions Britain, so I think this was written in the context of uh, the UK. But this all applies. The global economy is so interconnected. This easily applies to the United States, and I mean, if anything, it's even more exaggerated in the United States because we don't have the same kind of labor power built up that they do in the UK. So, um, taking all of that into account, just taking into account how screwed we got by our uh, uh, parent generation. Uh, how much mommy and daddy just sort of fucked us all over. Um, not literally, but you know, generally speaking. Uh, we have to watch this commercial, of course, made by a boomer. This is Dream Rich Media, and the name of this video is called "A Millennial Job Interview." So let's see.
Me, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
I'm trained in technology, you guys. I can use all the technology. Every single technology there's ever been, I can use a technology. I'm certified in technology. I'm sorry, that just sounded kind of silly.
No.
PowerPoint.
No.
Amy, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
No.
PowerPoint.
No.
Like, okay, like only a boomer would ask somebody, "Are you adept at PowerPoint?" Like PowerPoint's so fucking easy to use. Like anybody can use PowerPoint. After like 10 minutes of just clicking around the user interface, you can figure. Like, I'm sorry, if you need a class to like figure out how to use PowerPoint, that's not, you know, you just need to practice more with it.
No.
Publisher.
Not really.
Exactly in what area of technology are you proficient?
Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Vine, Twitter. You know, the big ones.
I'm surprised you didn't say Facebook.
That's for old people, like my parents.
um, all right. So it's kind of like a dig that I guess the zinger of this really dumb commercial is that millennials don't know how to use like useful computer programs. Oh, but boomers do. Boomers totally know how to use like every useful program out there. It's all those Facebooks and Snapchats and Instagrams and Pinterest. Those are all those useless ones that, you know, uh, modern corporations don't use whatsoever. Like, I'm sorry, but if I was hiring somebody to be like my social media account manager, for example, uh, I would want them to be proficient in like Facebook and Snapchat and Pinterest and Twitter and know what the heck they're doing. So I mean, I don't. This is trying to like shit on this millennial girl, but it's really just making her look like a more qualified hire. Uh, Even though I think it's kind of ridiculous to characterize her like not knowing how to do Excel or PowerPoint because pretty much all uh, tech savvy jobs and millennials have had to use that either for school or just in general uh, for projects and stuff like that.
That's funny.
Well, Amy, when you're working for me, you have to have those kind of research skills because I'll send you things for you to comb through and get the answers and send them to me. So for that, you got to be really good at technology.
For stuff like that, no problem.
Uh, to be able to like read reports and stuff, you don't really have to be good at technology. I mean, um, but yeah, let's keep going because I'm pretty sure this is about to get really patronizing to millennials.
I'll just ask Siri.
You'll just ask Siri?
You know, Siri, tell me this, Siri, find me that. We're all good at getting you the answers.
Tell Siri, I want you ready to go at 8.
All right, so this is kind of a dig at like how millennials, ooh, those dumb ass fucking millennials, they don't know anything. They just use their clicky phones to look everything up. Like that's a bad thing. Like I guess in the boomer mind, you're just supposed to have like an encyclopedic mindset and be able to like know everything at the drop of a hat. Uh, and they scoff at like people looking up facts on Google or video tutorials or something like that. Um, Now, in the context of this job interview, it makes her look like she might not have the technical expertise, but the design of this commercial isn't to portray like a realistic job interview. It's purely to shit on millennials. So, in that aspect, it's trying to make this lady, this girl, look like a complete incompetent, but it's not doing a very good job.
Sharp, each and every morning.
I don't understand
What don't you understand?
what you just said.
You don't understand
Is she high?
be ready to go?
No. You said 8, right?
Yes.
8, like
Are they really going to go where I think they're going to go?
in the morning 8?
Yes.
Those lazy fucking millennials, they don't work hard. Um, Do we have to go back to the statistic where it shows how a millennial needs to pay 19 times the amount or needs 19 times the amount of money for a deposit on a house? Uh where was that? Where was that? Um yeah, it will take a millennial on average 19 years to save for a deposit compared with just 3 years in the 1980s. So, this fucking smug looking bastard. Well, I don't know if this guy's actually to blame. He's these guys are just actors, but whoever made this commercial, whoever wrote this commercial and funded it, are trying to like put across this notion that like millennials are lazy, where if anything we had to work so much fucking harder than the boomer generation. Their fucking parents fought World War II, uh saved the world from fascism, what have you, and then gave them the highest living standards humanity's ever known after the war. And what do these uh, absolute greedy incompetents do? They manage to completely fuck up the planet with climate change and create an economy where it takes fucking 19 years to buy a house, where it only took them three. It And then they have the fucking balls to say that we are lazy and entitled. It's projection on the most basic level.
In the morning.
Yeah, that kind of doesn't work for me. Who gets up at 8?
I do.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning. I don't even get to Starbucks until like 10, where I order my grande chai tea latte, 3 pumps, skim milk, light water, 2% foam, extra hot, but not too hot. So if it's okay.
So, I mean, I guess this is making fun of millennials for having like taste in nice tasting coffee. I'm not a coffee connoisseur myself, but even that sounded like it tasted really, really good. And I think boomers are just jealous that they didn't grow up in an age that, the best they got was like that chocolate drink Yoo-hoo. Like that was the best they got back then. And they're pissy because we get our super duper chai mocha caramel chocolate chip swirl latte. Uh, but it's not like anything's stopping them. They can go get a latte too. I mean, it's not just a young person thing. Uh, the this is just such a stupid attack. This is just some, ooh, you get a chai vanilla latte, you dumb millennial. Like, okay, what is that supposed to mean? Like, what kind of insult is supposed to be had there? Like, like what? You're a little fancy pants or something? You get a little fancy coffee that makes you like some kind of that makes you like a weak and a wimp. You need to get your coffee straight black. That's how my generation did it. Got our coffee. We didn't even drink coffee. We just ate beans. That's what we did. We ate the beans.
I work best in the morning at 10:45.
Wow. Amy, I don't think we're going to be a good fit.
Why are you so negative? I can sense your hostilities, and right now I am not feeling very safe.
All right, so this is making fun of like, ooh, PC millennial outrage culture. Those darn millennials just get their panties in a twist with everything. Um, I try to give. I don't. I don't understand boomers because they were the generation that grew up like as hippies. They were hippies when they were young, and they probably heard all kinds of shit from their parents, like, oh, you're living in a fucking dream world and you don't know how the real world works, and they were probably condescended to, and then they turn around and they do the exact same fucking thing. Um, when boomers see millennial activism, they're just like, oh, haha, look at those PC lib cucks and their outrage uh, culture. Those SJWs just need to go cry in their safe space. Like, their parents probably would have said the exact same thing to them when they went to like Woodstock or something and went in a bong smoking circle and did peyote in the deserts out with their hippie commune friends. It's just complete projection. I think all these boomers are getting old and they're getting pissed off that we're young and we're enjoying life, despite the hell world that they made for us, and they are spiteful because of it.
I've been here for over 5 minutes, and the only nice thing you have said to me was nice resume, which I typed all night for this meeting with you. You've given me no guidance, no validation, no encouragement, no supervision. Is there an HR director somewhere?
All right, so this is saying like millennials are just whiny crybabies that go to HR and they just get fucking triggered about everything. I'm so tired of hearing these fucking boomers whine about us millennials whining, because honestly, I hear them bitching and moaning about the millennials much more than I hear cases of millennials like whining that they need a safe space. I'm a millennial. I've never spoken like this to anybody. I've never said, "Ooh, I'm gonna go to HR because you didn't say anything nice to me in 5 minutes." Uh, this is just a complete character assassination of like an entire an entire generation of people, but it's not the same as like me shitting on boomers, because like I didn't fucking raise them. They fucking raised us, and they want to call us like the participation trophy narcissist generation. They were the fucking ones that raised us to be like that. So I think I've seen enough of this. This is just really a frustrating video to watch. Uh, I was gonna dislike it, but I think I already did in the past. So that was painful to watch. Baby boomers, when they talk shit about millennials, it makes me sick. We are a very uh, uh, um, sorry generation of people because of the world that the boomers made for us, and we are going to be spending half of our lives at least trying to claw our way just to get to the same level of living standards that they enjoyed. So, you know, uh, if anybody had a fucking easy life, it was the boomers. If any, and not all of them, but in general, across broad demographics, generationally speaking, they had it much better than millennials do. So, all that being said, uh, yeah, millennials are awesome. They need to stop getting so much crap by the boomer dominated media. And I think we'll see that change once they finally croak and we become we take their place as the new old fogies that talk shit about I guess Gen Z.